Millions of years ago, our ancestors changed their diet from a plant-based to a meat-based diet, and this may be the reason our brains tripled in size. Why did they change their diet? How did it affect their bodies? And does this mean we today are designed to live on a meat-based diet? That's what we'll discuss in this video. Not everyone wants you to know the truth, so I'm here to expose the science and share practical tips on weight loss, fitness and healthy lifestyle. It's simply put, with no BS. Make sure you're subscribed. I'm Ingunn, the Norwegian Viking. What we're talking about here today is based on this very interesting paper from 2018. Now, our ancestors likely had a joint ancestor with chimpanzees millions of years ago, though our development through evolution has been a very different one from the chimpanzees, obviously. And one of the main reasons we are here living the lives that we do today, having the brains that we have and the abilities that we have today rather than living more similar simple lives as chimpanzees in the jungle, one of the main reasons for that may be our shift from a plant-based to a meat-based diet. About 2.8 million years ago, due to the climate changing, vegetation changed in East Africa from a wetland closed canopy dominated habitat to a more open savanna grassland. This happened gradually and it changed the food that was available to our ancestors. At some point, our ancestors ventured out from the wetlands and into the grasslands and their diet adapted. The food available in the grasslands were large grazing animals. So was that what they ate? Did they eat large grazing animals? Scientists have studied fossil remains of our ancestors and they have different ways to determine what they were likely consuming at the time, from studying their teeth to even elements within their bones. And they have found that even as early as 2 to 3 million years ago, our ancestors ate meat. They belonged somewhere between a herbivore and a carnivore, though they ate a considerable proportion of meat. They've even found evidence suggesting that our ancestors as far back as 2.5 to 2.1 million years ago used stone tools to cut meat. They don't think our ancestors 2 to 3 million years ago were hunting animals themselves, but rather scavenging from dead animals. Though, of course, with time we became amazing hunters ourselves. The study looked at research from different fields and said that findings from each of these fields reveal a changing dietary pattern away from low quality, highly fibrous, energy poor plant staples to a growing dependence on more energy rich animal foods, culminating in Paleolithic Homo sapiens being top level carnivores. And this shift to eating an animal-based diet may be the reason we developed such large brains. We now have very large brains for our body size. Our brains have mainly increased in size in the last 2 to 3 million years, and actually our brains have tripled in size in the last 4 million years. To increase our brain size, our ancestors both had to meet the requirements of some specific polyunsaturated fatty acids like AA and DHA, which we'll talk more about shortly, and they had to meet the increasing energy requirement of a larger brain. Actually, the metabolic requirement of the human brain per kilogram is approximately 9 times higher than the human body as a whole. So, to accommodate this, our ancestors would either have to increase their overall basal metabolic rate, or they would have to lower their metabolic rate of another tissue. And it seems like they did not change their overall basal metabolic rate. However, when examining individual organs, the increase in size and metabolic rate of the brain is closely balanced with the reduction in size and metabolic rate of our digestive system. So it seems as though our ancestors increased their brain size at the same time as they decreased their digestive system. The digestive system of animals can say a lot about what type of foods they get their nutrients from. The digestive system of some animals eating food that are not easily digested, like grass for instance, have a large digestive tract with chambers for fermentation, like cows. Animals eating more high quality foods that are more easily digested can have relatively small gut with simple stomachs, reduced colon size, but proportionally long small intestine, as seen in carnivores. So we could say that our ancestors swapped their large digestive system for a larger brain. Though to accommodate that change, they would have had to find more high quality foods, as wild plant foods would have not been enough, as they are poor sources of protein and fat. So they would have had to include animal foods in increasing amounts. The wild fruits, vegetables, foliage, and tuber roots available to hunter-gatherers and early hominids were generally fibrous and of low energy density. The high energy / time spent in collection and preparation of such plant foods, particularly wild seed grains, is not well rewarded in terms of energy gain. Hence, these are not feasible as a primary energy source. This explains why meat intake was essential despite often abundant plant food availability. As mentioned, our brains grew a lot and we developed our digestive system. We know our digestive system can say a lot about what we're designed to eat, so take a look at this. The length of our digestive system compared with the length of our body is just between a dog and a cat, both of whom are carnivores. Cats are obligate carnivores, but dogs are also carnivores. They can eat plant foods as well, but they need to eat meat, and they are designed to get the great majority of their nutrients from meat. Plus, if we compare the relative gut volume proportions of specific parts of our gut with plant-eating primates, chimpanzees, and gorillas, we see that our gut is pretty much the opposite of theirs. We have a smaller stomach, much larger small intestine, and much smaller colon. So even though our ancestors may have shared an ancestor with the chimpanzees, we developed to become very different animals, and it may have had a lot to do with our ancestors eating a meat-based diet. As the article states, in primates, higher food quality relates to smaller gut size and larger brain size, with humans being the extreme case. Before we take a look at more specific ways of how we've adapted to eating an animal-based diet, please take a moment and click that subscribe button and turn on notifications to be notified when my next video comes out. And also remember to follow me on Instagram at VikingIngun. How our bodies function today also sheds a light on how important animal foods have become in our diet. For example, similar to obligate carnivores, humans have an inefficient ability to chain elongate plant-rich 18 carbon fatty acids into 20 and 22 carbon polyunsaturated fatty acids, essential for cell membrane function in brain tissue, hence requiring direct consumption from animal tissue. We also have a decreased ability to synthesize the amino acid taurine, presumably because we didn't really need to synthesize it because we got plenty of dietary sources of preformed taurine, which is only found in animal foods. Humans are also much better at absorbing specific nutrients from animal foods rather than plant foods. For example, the mineral iron has a different form in plants as opposed to in animal foods, and we are much better at absorbing the form that's found in animal foods. And plants often contain quite a bit of anti-nutrients that make it even harder for us to absorb specific nutrients, including iron and zinc. Vitamin B12 is a nutrient we need to get from animal foods, which is why vegetarians and especially vegans may be deficient in this nutrient unless they supplement or eat fortified foods. When it comes to omega-3 fatty acids, plant foods can be a good source of one specific type of omega-3 called ALA, though the critical EPA and DHA is only found in seafood as well as some land herbivores. Humans can convert ALA to EPA and DHA, though we are very inefficient at that process, so very little ALA is actually converted. All of these 4 nutrients that I have mentioned, iron, zinc, vitamin B12, and the specific omega-3 fatty acids that are either only found in animal foods or are much better absorbed from animal foods, all of these nutrients are very important for our brains specifically. Low levels of these nutrients may lead to depression, poor cognition, poor motor development and behavior problems in children, fatigue, poor memory, mania, psychosis, rapid cognition decline in the elderly, and so on. So these nutrients are very important for our brain, and remember, the development of our brain must be the reason we are here living the lives that we do today. Now, in addition to looking at specific nutrients, we should also take a step back and look at the food sources of these nutrients. And the best sources are animal foods. We may supplement a poor diet with supplements and fortified foods, though we know supplements are nothing compared to whole foods. So, as we've seen, humans have been eating meat for a very long time, and the shift our ancestors made from a plant-based to an animal-based diet may very well be the reasons we have developed such huge brains. Is why we have developed a dependence on animal foods, and that our digestive system have adapted to becoming very efficient at absorbing nutrients from animal foods rather than plant foods. We are actually quite similar to dogs when it comes to our digestive system. Basically, our digestive system suggests we are carnivores. Sure, we can eat plant foods as well, though that's not the type of food that our digestive system prefers to get most of its nutrients from. This does not mean we should all be only eating animal foods, though it does mean animal foods are essential to humans. That's how we evolved. And to be at our best, we need to make sure we eat enough animal foods to get the necessary nutrients. Now, I get that this is an especially sensitive topic these days, and that there are lots of people that have very strong opinions. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and I'm not talking about animal welfare or environmental issues here. I'm talking about the human body, how we have evolved, what food sources our digestive system prefers, and certain things that may be affected if we don't supply enough of specific nutrients. So from a nutritional perspective, I believe we can say that humans evolved to eat animals and that animal foods are essential to us humans. What you do with that information is of course up to you. Now, just one quick note at the end here, if you haven't already, please make sure you download my free guide called Hack Your Way Out of 3 Weight Loss Mistakes Almost Everyone Makes. In the guide, I show how it's possible to burn more calories without exercising and eat tasty food till satiety and still lose weight. Losing weight does not need to be a miserable experience if we follow the real science. Make sure you download my free guide at vikingingun.com. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please take a moment to give it a thumbs up, a heart, or a like, depending on where you're watching from, and I'll see you in the next video.